Today we're looking at Lefevre/True's 12.2 line. This is the continuation of their 12.1 line. But is it better or more of the same? It's better. I'm not going to leave you in suspense, but we'll talk about it after the intro. Hey guys, so I wasn't planning on doing a 12.2 review or getting the set or getting the pads or anything. I did the 12.1, and while there were things I kind of saw just through pictures, social media, whatnot, that interested me about the 12.2 and things that I thought improved in areas they needed to improve, it just wasn't going to be in the cards for me. There were other things I wanted to get and review more than the 12.2. But I came across a deal I just couldn't refuse. So you know how it is when you're addicted to buying goalie gear. So I came across this really good deal. So what this set is, it was like a pro return demo kind of thing. Like, it had never been used. It's completely unused, but I guess, I don't know, they made it for some kind of a pro or whatever, just to show them what they could do, or like show them the build that this pro, I guess, was interested in. And I guess, I don't know, they didn't end up going with it or didn't use it for whatever reason. So I got it, cheaper than what getting a set would normally cost for us. Obviously the caveat though being that this was built for someone else, not built for me. So as you'll see in this video, I'll talk about, there's definitely options and build options with these pads that I wouldn't have went with myself personally. But I'll point those out, and we'll talk about it. But obviously, this is a thing you can order custom. So these are pads. This is a whole set that can be built to your specific likes and needs or whatever. So I'm not gonna like hold things against this set that it's just something that I wouldn't order, because it's subjective. But so this is just, I haven't used this set yet. This is just the kind of overlook, out of the box kind of video, if you will. So yeah, let's get into it. So this is the leg pad, 12.2. Upon first look, you might not think it's much different than its 12.1 predecessor, but once you start getting into it, you do see some differences. And it's not a drastically different pad, but they did make some improvements, some innovations with it, some of which were direct things that I was kind of like unhappy about with my 12.1 pads. So for one thing, just like aesthetically speaking, you can see it's True now, even though it's made by Lefevre. It says in the back here, it'll say handcrafted by Lefevre, whatever. But now it's being branded under True because True partnered with them. They're making it under the True name now. And if you remember in my 12.1 video, those were under Lefevre, and kind of a weird placement. The Lefevre name was just like going down the pad randomly there, which kind of weird. So now they have it more traditionally on the outer roll where it says True, and on the side over here it says True. So just visually it looks better. It still says the model, the line model on the toe outer roll. So it's a cleaner look, a better look, I feel. Not a big deal, but something to talk about, difference with this. The graphics, you can't really see the graphics too well in this because it's an all white pad. But if you look at pictures of the graphic colored in and you compare them to the 12.1, it's different, but you can see how it's like a continuation of the 12.1 graphic. It's not drastically different. It kind of looks like they enlarged it and slightly turned the graphic. If you see certain ways it's done, you'll see what I'm talking about. So it's not like a drastically different graphic. I still think it's not great. It's just kind of like random shapes and slants and whatever. And it's just, with a lot of different areas you can color in to kind of make it your own. But it's, it's like whatever. I don't think it's a great graphic. It's not the worst graphic. It's kind of whatever. So moving on to some other things about this pad. This came with their same, I forgot what it's called, but their sliding material that they use. This seems to be the exact same that I had on my 12.1 pad, which I wasn't too crazy about. It, you know, in certain situations, it almost even felt like it kind of didn't slide well, and then in other situations, it slid decently, but not like, I don't know, it didn't blow me away. I didn't think it's as good as, like, for instance, Vaughn's Quick Slide, but that's on this pad as well. We'll see if it makes any difference with some of the other things they did to this pad to make it different. Maybe like the build of it will somehow affect how well it slides. I doubt it, but we'll see. I'll give it a chance. So they're still going with the knee rolls with this, but they flatten them out on the 12.2 coming from the 12.1. So they don't stick out as much. They're pretty flat, as you can see. You know, multiple companies have come out and basically said that, like, the knee rolls serve no purpose at this point. It's just that, like, they really just do it for aesthetic reasons, and it's because, like, I guess through market research they've asked, and people have told them that they expect a flexible pad to have knee rolls. So that's kind of the only reason why they put it on there, because they just think, well, people want to see knee rolls on pads that they deem to be the flexible pads, and if that's what they're looking for. You know, I think they could do without the knee rolls personally, and you know, like, I mean, my Vaughns have knee rolls too, but, like, I don't really care. I don't think to me they serve a purpose. I'd be fine if they took the knee rolls off, but it's not like a big deal if they have it on. But that's just why they, you know, they still have it just for visual purposes, but they flatten it out so much that it almost does nothing, and it's really just to signal to people that, oh, this is the flex pad or whatever, you know. So another difference, they thinned out the pad, not drastically thinner, but this does, up here in the thigh, does feel a little thinner. And if you saw my 12.1 videos, you'll see that I kind of commented how down here it was a little chunky. It doesn't seem like they really thinned this part out much, if at all. I would say it's mostly was done up here, but the big difference that I really liked, that I thought was a big problem, maybe not big problem, is not the right way to say it, but to me was a problem with the 12.1 set, was how thick the boot was. It was just, like, ridiculously, comically thick compared to, like, almost any other pad out there right now. Like, compared to my Vaughns, it was like an inch thicker, and now they drastically thinned this out, and the boot is now on par with my Vaughns. So this is, like I said, this is about an inch thinner of a boot than what was on the 12.1 pads. And so besides just, like, it doesn't feel as chunky anymore, like, it's gonna help with the boot flex. So the boot flex on this is pretty good as it is, but, you know, even if you put the break of the boot to be flexible, if it's really chunky, it's gonna get in its own way, like, because of how thick it is. It's gonna like just hit against the shin part, and it's not gonna flex as much. But this really, like, you get a lot more play with this boot flex on here, and I think it's because of them thinning it out. So I really like that the boot is thinner and a little more flexible, probably because of that on this pad. Because that was a big issue I had with the 12.1. Another difference is they've kind of went bindingless, not totally bindingless, because there's binding on the toe part here, but on the 12.1s, I had bindings up here around the sides. So with this one, they got rid of the bindings. To me, like, that's not a big deal. You know, it's just a matter of how they decide to construct the pad. I do think this is a cleaner look though, without the bindings, but it's not like the bindings are really affecting your play. It's just more of a visual thing. Maybe a ever so slight weight reduction without the bindings. I mean, how much could they possibly weigh? But I just think the biggest difference is just it's a cleaner look. So I do think these look cleaner and a little more modern without the bindings. So I think that is also a somewhat of a plus. So now, you know, like I said, since these aren't like something I ordered specifically for myself, these are just something I got from somebody else. You know, these were not ordered to my spec. So for instance, while the boot is nice and flexible, the build of the main part of the pad, and especially up by the thigh, is like super rigid, super stiff. So they must have gone with the stiff core option on this, is what I'm thinking. And I mean, as you can see, there is a single break on the outer, but I think, you know, it feels like just single break outer and single break inside with the stiff build. You know, I have to kind of guess on this because where I bought it from, they didn't have like all the specs. They're just selling this, like I said, as a pro return kind of a thing. I'm trying to, maybe in my next video, when after I've used these a bunch of times and I do a review, I might have some more information as to exactly what the build specs on these were and maybe even who they were made for. So I'm endeavoring to get that info. As of right now, I don't though. So just my guess is that this is the single break inner outer option with the stiff core, because this is very stiff, this top part. It does not, I mean, you really have to, I guess, and you can see it's barely bending. And the bend you see is mostly just coming from this break, but even then it's not giving much. So it's definitely very different from the double inner, no outer, soft core build that I had on my 12.1s. So that definitely shows that they can build, you know, run the gamut of build in these pads from, you know, softer to really stiff. And I know, like, just from seeing what other companies are putting out there and, you know, just from being out there talking to people, whatever, chatting with people, this seems to be kind of like a pretty popular build type these days, where you have the soft boot. So you have the soft boot for like RVH play and just being able to, you know, foot ankle mobility helps with that, but they still want that like stiffer pad, very rigid. So I've seen this type of build just being offered as a stock option on some pads. And it just seems like a popular thing people like, where they want the boot to be soft, but the rest of the pad be super stiff. And I think this would be really good for somebody who wants that. You know, me personally, I don't, but for somebody who wants that build, this seems really good, because like it really surprised me how stiff this was. Like, this is getting to be like Bauer territory as far as how stiff they can make their pads. That's how this is really stiff. And you know, like, cause some people especially don't want the thigh rise part to be floppy or flexible, because they think maybe like a shot's going to hit it and push through. A shot is not getting through this. This is really, really well built and stiff. So then moving on to like the back part, the knee cradle, the leg channel. So this is definitely not stock spec one. It differs a lot from like what a stock 12.2 pad would come with. So some of the things that this was ordered with was, this does not, for instance, have the recessed knee cradle, which means it has this extra, you can see this extra piece here, which if you refer again back to my 12.1 pads, I ordered it without this because I don't see what it really accomplishes. I feel there's no need for it, and like seeing it now with this, I definitely don't feel like there's a need for it. If anything, it just feels like it makes this area more busy and it's more stuff to get in the way, especially if you're using knee pads, which I do. So yeah, I would not recommend ordering this. Maybe some of you guys out there just really like this for whatever reason, but it's not like you're landing on this part of the pad, right? You're always landing on this. So it's not like this is really, you could say, oh, it's providing more cushion for landing on. So I really don't know why you would order with this area here. But yeah, like, and if this was something, you know, I'm mainly just planning on trying out these pads, and I'm going to resell them eventually, obviously, as I normally do. But if I was planning on trying to keep these for myself, I would probably just actually cut this out myself, because it's not really it's not like the whole thing isn't sewn in. It's only attached through these cords here. So it's attached here and it's attached here. So if you wanted to, you could cut this out after the fact. But like I said, since I'm going to inevitably resell these, I'm just going to leave it in and try them like that. But like I said, I don't think this is a useful thing at all. I would not recommend ordering pads with this knee thing. Get the recessed knee is my recommendation. So now this one was ordered in mind with somebody who straps the elastic across the knee, which I don't. I strap it down to the calf, which it does have that option. It has the Velcro part down here. So with my 12.1s, I did not have this at all. There's nothing here. So this has the part the Velcro attaches to, which is this. But then it also has this extra like padded outer part to like protect this. So whoever ordered this obviously is just interested in having, like, maybe they took a shot to the outer knee, and like a lot of times when people have special requests, it's because of something like that, like they took a shot to this area and maybe they got injured, and so now they're paranoid and they really want extra protection. None of my pads, like I said, since I strapped to the calf, I usually have just absolutely nothing, and it's just my pads are just open here. That's how my Vons are, that's how my 12.1s were, and I've never had a problem. I mean, if anything were to somehow get a shot there or whatever, my knee pads have always just protected that. So to me, this has not been an issue, but whoever these were made for wanted this extra protection piece. Now this is something I don't even recall seeing an option for to order when you like build a custom thing. So this must be like, or this is probably some like super custom thing built for this, whoever this was meant to be demoed for or whatever. And this is like a flap, and it's attached with Velcro to like the body of the pad. So here, let me see, yeah. So it's got like this Velcro strap that attaches it to the body of the pad. And I think the reason for that is at the NHL level, and I don't know how far lower than that it goes, like AHL, ECHL, whatever. But I know there's an equipment rule where you can't have like a loose flap that sticks out from the pad, because like after that lockout of like 05, when they came back after that, so guys were like, I don't know, they weren't attaching it to the thing, they weren't attaching their knee across or whatever, and like they would have this flap that would stick out. And look, common sense tells you this little flap isn't stopping a puck. It really, to me, I don't see how it's making a difference. But the geniuses in charge of the NHL deemed that it was some sort of like competitive advantage, or they didn't want this flap sticking out like this on the pad, basically. So now there's like a rule where you can't have any kind of loose flap thing on the knee that sticks out like this. So that's why I'm assuming this was attached, even though it is sewn in, but it also has this elastic Velcro attached system that pulls it in so that it does not stick out, but it still holds it in place there for protection purposes. Again, I personally would not have ordered any of this stuff. It would, if it was in my pad, it would just have this, and then this would all just be this part of the pad. It would look like this section of the pad, the same thing, but you know, this was not ordered for my specifications. The leg channel build here is kind of an older style. So I'm thinking maybe this was made for somebody who's a little older and used to some older pads, because as you can see, one thing, this is still utilizing leather straps, which even I have now gone away from, except for I still use them on the top part, like in the thigh rise and right behind the knee area, just to hold the pad down and pull in that top thigh rise. And that's really because the leather straps are the only options for those areas. It's not like they offer to have some sort of elastic strap there or whatever. It's kind of like if you want to strap up there, it's gonna have to be leather. So I still use it there, but as far as like the main strapping part of a pad, I've gone away from using leather straps to just the elastic type of strapping. So this is much more of an older style. This almost looks exactly to me like how my Vaughn V7s I had, the setup I had, as far as like you can see the leg channel is very open, which I do like. So it's a very roomy open leg channel. And it's a traditional kind of a strap where it just has this one elastic Velcro piece here. And now this might look like the stock strap, but it's not exactly the same, because the stock one that goes across the calf area is usually nylon. Although I don't know, maybe you could custom order in elastic, but on my 12.1s it was a nylon, and it would come across, loop through like a hook thing, and then come across, and then Velcro back on this side. This is just here, and then it Velcros straight across, and that's it. And that's how like a lot of slightly older pads, the Velcro calf part would be. So that part is a little different. And then, you know, there is no like professor strap thing, or I don't know what they probably have a name for that thing. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. My 12.1s had the professor strap. The stock 12.2s come with their FRS, they call it, fast rotation system. So it has this thing here, and I think their first pad that they had that came with it was a 20.1. And now they carried over into their 12.2 as a stock option. This was made without it, which is kind of a shame, because I would have liked to try that out. I think it's interesting. It's like one of their innovations that they have. So it's a shame that this pad doesn't have that, but it is what it is. Like I said, you know, you get things for a deal for cheaper, and you kind of have to make some concessions, I guess. But so yeah, this doesn't have that FRS system in there, nor does it have like a professor strap. So like I said, this is more of an older style where it's got like your one kind, like this is more of an anchor thing, this elastic to your calf, and then you secure it. There's several leather straps securing it to the back. But what this means with between the wide leg channel and how it's utilizing more of the leather straps to hold it on is you can wear it looser. And so what I'm kind of thinking is that even though this is a stiffer build on the body of the pad than I normally like, is that maybe because I can get away wearing it looser, it's not going to feel as restrictive on my leg as a other modern pad that uses elastic strapping and is super stiff would feel. Because the thing is with the elastic strapping, if that's all you're using, and I've talked about this in past videos, is, you know, to really have it effective and have it and keep it the pad on your leg, you have to strap it kind of tight because it's elastic, so it'll give. So you have to keep that in mind. And if you do it too loose, the pad will come off your leg way too far. Your knee might come out of the leg, the knee cradle. Sometimes the pad you'll even see in the NHL, there's been instances where the pad will come off the leg. So for me to make an elastic only strapping system effective, it has to be fairly snug on the leg, and then the elastic will give when needed. However, then when you combine that with a very stiff pad build, that's where I personally get into the issue of like it just feeling like I'm fighting against the pad because you got a tighter fit on, but it's also super stiff. So like if I'm doing a split, I'm stretching my leg out a lot, I'm trying to stand very straight to see over somebody, it's like I'm fighting the pad against my thigh, my leg. So I'm hoping that with this, the way this was made, where I can wear it kind of looser, will kind of offset how stiff the build of this pad is and make it feel a little more comfortable on my legs. So we'll see. I mean, that remains to be seen. But, you know, this is just a very different setup than what it would come stock. But these are pretty much, I think, other than maybe this flap, like I said, which seems like I've never seen this before. But the rest of this, I'm pretty sure you could order basically through their customizer list, because you know it'll ask you if you want the FRS system, if you don't want it. They ask you if you want leather straps, if you don't want leather straps. They ask you about the wide leg channel, the tight leg channel. So I'm pretty sure if you're ordering custom, you could duplicate this build if you wanted to. But if you're somebody that just buys stock, this is not how it's going to come. It's going to come with I think the stock leg channel is not this big, and it's going to have the fast rotation system in there. And it's not going to have, it doesn't have leather strapping at all. This also came with a boot strap, which I do use, so that is something I would have ordered anyway if it was me. And then for the toe tie part, this is true Lefevre's kind of a bungee system. In the past, I've always just used my third-party Kova toe tie system that I really like. However, I decided I'm gonna give these a try just to see, because you can see the theory behind these, the thinking behind this build is sort of similar to the Kova ones, where you have skate lace to start, which attaches to the toe. So this doesn't bend or pull or anything. It's stiff. It stays, you know, it won't stretch. That's what I'm looking for. This doesn't stretch. But then it attaches to the rest of this part that is like a bungee system that will stretch. And that's sort of similar to the way the Kova system is. You can refer back to my video on the Kova toe tie system if you're interested in that. So it's similar enough that I don't feel the need to take these out and put that in. I'm gonna give these a try. I feel like there's a high probability that these will work for me. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can really talk about these. Like I said, you know, I haven't used these yet, so this is just eyeballing stuff, seeing the differences. But yeah, I do like, you know, the changes I've seen in this. And, you know, if you compare this to my 12.1 video, like I said, I felt they needed to bring this pad, make it a little more modern. And I feel like they have done that. You know, whereas the 12.1 felt like it's just, the 12.1 to me felt like, you know, when they broke off to just being Lefevre on their own, they needed to have that style of like an E-Flex pad out there. So they literally just took like what they've had already, and they just put another E-Flex out there just to have that style pad out there, but there was no innovation. It was basically the same pad they've had. It felt like they put most of their like design time into their new 20.1 pad, because that seemed to be that debuted the FRS strapping system, and that just seemed to be the one that they were like putting out there as their more technologically advanced pad and whatever. And the 12.1 felt a little bit like an afterthought. This finally feels like they were really trying to design something newer, making some innovation, making it better. So that part I'm happy with. That part impresses me. Without actually using this on the ice, there's not a lot more I can say, but just I do visually looking at it, I do like the changes they made, flattening the knee rolls, thinning out the pad in certain areas, especially in the boot. Yeah, so that's basically all there is to talk about on the leg pads. Now I'm gonna move on to the glove. So now, the thing is, especially with the glove, again, because this is all custom, so me reviewing it, even if I reviewed a stock one, there's so many different things you can do to make it different than the glove I'm gonna have in my hands, that you don't have to use the same exact glove. So I'm gonna try to focus more on generality stuff with this that will apply to most versions of the glove, as opposed to super specific things, although I will address that too. Like for instance, this is a 600 glove, and that's talking, if you're not aware, that's talking about the break of the glove. They have a 580, a 590, and a 600. So I'm just going to do a quick overview, even though I've talked about this before, but maybe some of you aren't aware of this. So 580 break is going to close kind of like this, where your fingers go into your palm, and you kind of, it's like a thumbs up almost thing, and the pocket closes more vertically. And they say it's a 90 degree, and that's because if you look at where the way the pocket closes compared to the bottom of the glove, it works out to be like a 90 degree angle. The break isn't necessarily 90 degree, but it's just when you close it, it looks like a 90 degree angle. To me, that's the one break that I just absolutely do not want to use, because it just feels weird to me. I've tried 580 gloves on, and closing it trying to catch like this just seems weird to me. It does not feel natural. Some people swear by it. Some people, that's all they will use is a 580. And hey, man, whatever works for you. Just for me personally, I would not want to use a 580. Then you have the 590. That's my preferred glove closure. The 590 closes kind of like this. So maybe you're thinking, oh, that looks almost the same. So 580 this, 590 you're more closing to the base of your thumb as opposed to just the palm. And so you'll see it's like this. And to me, that's the most natural, and that's actually like how I can get the most strength in my hand to close it. Because it's almost the motion you have when you're like gripping a pole or railing or something. It's more of a grip thing, and you're actually using the muscles of your palm to help close the glove when you're doing that movement. So now this with the 600, the reason why I'm not that crazy about the 600 is the way you close it is more like a baseball glove, like they say a first baseman's glove, I think they say. I was never really into baseball, but so it closes more fingertips to thumb tip like this. And to me, that kind of takes your palm out of the closing equation, and you pretty much have to gain all your strength from your fingers, and it just feels more awkward to close. So again, this is all personal preference, whatever, but this is just why I prefer the 590 to the 600 or the 580. So unfortunately for me, this is the 600, that's what this set came with, but at least it's not the 580. If it was the 580, I'd be like, oh, this, but I can at least use a 600 glove. Like I said, it just feels a little awkward to me to use it, but let me put this bad boy on. So, but like I said, if you're ordering, I think the stock is the 600, but if you're getting custom, you order 590, 580, whatever you want. Another thing with this 600 break is it feels like compared, and the 12.1 glove that I had in my previous set was a 590. So I'm directly comparing it to the same company that's building this. I feel like the way your thumb is, when you just not even closing, just putting your hand in the glove, it feels like the thumb is being brought further out. Whereas like, I don't know, like my 580 was more, I mean, my 590 was a little more like this, and this is like, it's pulling my thumb further away from my hand, which feels a little weird, even just holding it like this. And then, you know, closing it, like I said, it's that more fingertips, the thumb tip kind of closure, which is doable, but it doesn't feel as natural to me as a 590, but it's still better than a 580 in my eyes. So one thing that I like about this that I know as soon as I put it on, that to me was a problem with my 12.1 590 glove, is the how easy it was to close out of the box. Now this is still not, even though this is called game ready, and my 590 was a game ready in the 12.1, I still would not say that this is game ready. Just as I said, that wasn't game ready. I think that's not really accurate description, but it closes easier than my 12.1 catcher did. So they have improved it. So I think basically what that's going to do is it's going to cut the break-in time. I still think you need to break it in. There's very few gloves out there that to me, you can really just take it out of the box and use it without ever breaking it or doing anything, and just use it straight out of the box. That to me is what game ready should mean, but really what it means with most gloves is that it's easier to close than the practice or the pro palm, whatever. So they did improve it, I feel. This does feel a little more fappy, but it's still not that snap, that like effortless snap shut that when you really get a glove that's game ready and broken in fully like my Vaughn glove has at this point. The other thing besides the improved ease of closure on this is just overall the glove doesn't feel as thick and chunky as as my 12.1 did. Because I don't know, to me it just felt a little too much. It's not necessarily that, I don't know that it really affected. I think more than anything, the fact that I couldn't close that glove too well is what made me not catch well. But it just, as far as like a comfort standpoint, the chunkiness of it felt a little too much, a little overboard. This feels like, I don't know, it feels like they thinned out the glove a little bit. Like I don't really know, I don't have a good way to like measure it necessarily, especially since I don't have that 12.1 glove anymore. But it just feels thinned out and like a little lighter maybe. It reminds me more of the feel, a little bit more of the feel of like how my V9, Vaughn V9 glove is, which I absolutely love. So I like the feel of this better. The closure seems like it has improved. Other than that though, like just looking at the glove, aside from the difference in break, it looks very similar. There's really not a lot of changes, visually at least. You know, feel-wise, yes. Visually, it looks very much the same. As like, again, I don't still have the 12.1 glove to like compare side by side, but like I went back and watched my old video just to see, or try to remember how it looked and how the strapping was. And to me, this is exactly the same strapping it looks like. I couldn't tell just from watching the old video to this. Like I said, I'd have to put it like side by side to maybe see differences. To me, all this strapping looks the same. Everything seems to be exactly the same as the 12.1 in that aspect. So, you know, and that's something I feel like with Lefevre, they've kind of, their gloves, their glove and blockers really don't change a whole lot over the years, over the different series and versions, because, I don't know, it's something that's been successful for them, their glove and blocker, and so they probably feel like they don't want to do any kind of drastic changes. They probably feel like if it's not broke, don't fix it. So yeah, there's really not a whole lot of change in the look of this and how it closes, how it straps up and that kind of stuff. It's very similar. They do, I mean, going back also real quick to just how I talk about how it feels like they thinned out the glove a little bit. This definitely seems like it's been thinned out too. The cuff, which was something I said that I thought they could do when I was looking at the 12.1 glove. So that all feel, you know, the glove feels more easy to use in that aspect, you know, a little lighter, not as chunky, more, you know, it's just more streamlined, more, it feels like more organic to use out there, right? And like the closure is definitely easier. I feel like if I, you know, like I said, I haven't even used this at all. I just got this like 2 days ago, whatever. I really haven't done much to break it in at all. And it's already closing pretty easy. I feel like if you work on this a little bit, it's gonna be like pretty easy to close. So that's definitely a big improvement in their game ready glove, that it's a lot easier to close than it was in the 12.1 line. The other thing is now, So I don't know if this is because of the difference in how the pocket build is, or if it has something to do with the 600 break of the glove, because I can't directly compare it since my other glove was a 590, but the pocket on this to me seems massive. I really like this. Now I'm normally, if you see my other videos, a double T guy. With the 12.1 glove, I don't know, I figure I'm trying something new. Let me kind of get out of my comfort zone a little bit. I don't want to just try to, I don't want to just try to recreate my Vaughn set with everything I order, because otherwise what's the purpose of, you're not really trying that many new things then, right? So I ordered the single offset T on my 12.1 glove. It was fine. Like I said though, just in general, I felt like I couldn't catch good with the glove. Mostly I blame that on the closure, but it also might be the way that pocket build was. But I'm really loving how this pocket looks. It looks massive. It looks like it's gonna just kill pucks in there. So without using it, I can't definitively say, but this is looking like the way to go is with the double T. I believe the double T is the stock. But then, like I said, you could order single T, whatever. It just depends on your own preferences. I would recommend, just based on looking at this, it seems like the double T is the way to go. I'm liking that. But also maybe that also has to do with the 600 break, but I think it's more to do with the double T, because I feel like even in other gloves I've had, the double T just makes the pocket look bigger, at least, just because you have less material here. It's not just one big strap. It's, you're breaking it up into two smaller strap things here, and it kind of opens up the pocket more. So that I like about this. The only thing I could say, maybe a little negative that I think they could work on still, again, this is without actually using on the ice yet, but as I said, this is a very similar, the backhand part, the strapping, all this is pretty much identical to the 12.1 from what I can tell. And it's getting a little dated maybe. I think they could do something to free up the wrist area a little more, maybe something like how Bauer does, where they have, like, this piece is attached with elastic, so it has a lot of give to it. I mean, this has some give because it's its own, I don't know if you can see it, it's got its own, like, cuff thing here that's separate from this hard cuff. So it does have some give to it, but I think that's something they could improve a little bit by either making this shallower or having this attached with like elastic or something that'll give more. But other than that, I'm pretty impressed with this glove. Like I said, it's not the break I would order for myself. I would love to see what this glove feels like in a 590, but being with that in mind, that it's not even the break that I would normally get, I think this glove is pretty good. I definitely think it's an improvement over what I saw with the 12.1 glove. So yeah, that's the glove. Now we'll move on to the blocker, which, speaking of how I said the glove kind of is very similar, as far as the way it looks and the build of it, like how the strapping is and that kind of thing, the blocker is even more identical. Like, this could basically just be the 12.1 blocker. This just has some different options than what I ordered my 12.1 blocker to be, but I could have ordered, if I would have ordered with these same options, it would have been the exact same blocker. I see no difference in the blocker other than this has a few different options. So let me just go over that real quick. For instance, with mine, my 12.1 that I ordered this to be the more rounded curved thing. So it came out a little bit more this way. This is the more flatter cut of this little piece here. So that is an option, something that's an option for you to order. Honestly, I don't have a huge preference for this. I just kind of, when I ordered my 12.1, I decided to get that one because I think maybe because it's what my Vaughn is, or I don't even know why I decided to order it, but I just had to pick one, and I could care less between the two because I've used both versions and I don't really feel a difference. Some people say this opens it up more, where it's easier to hold your stick with it. To me, I held my stick just fine even with the other one, so whatever. I don't really care too much about it, but that was one difference between my 12.1 glove and this 12.2, blocker. The other one is in the palm. This is all just like Nash. My 12.1 I had ordered with like a sure grip part in right here on the palm, and I think it went up into the thumb. But other than that, it's basically the exact same blocker, which you might think is a negative, but I would say not necessarily, because while I would say Bauer slightly edges out Lefevre, True, whatever you want to call them, as far as who makes the best blocker, this is a very close second. Their blockers have always been held in high regard for years now. You could see in the past with like Ryan Miller, I think Corey Schneider, like they would use like Vaughn everything, and then they would have a Lefevre built blocker, whether it was CCM, Reebok at the time, whatever it was being made under. So yeah, you've seen guys where they purposely went out of their way to use a Lefevre blocker when the rest of their gear was something else. So their blockers are really solid, very protective, very hard, you know. The sidewall is very sturdy, which is something, if you've seen my past videos, I really like. So it's really just more of the same with the blocker, but that's not, when you make one of the best blockers in the business, it's not really a bad thing. If you saw my 12.1 video, you know I had a little bit of an issue with it feeling tight in the thumb, specifically at the base of the thumb. I still feel it a little bit here, but I feel like it's not as bad with this one for whatever reason. I don't know if they actually changed something, if it's just the luck of the draw. This one just happened to be stitched a little differently since this is, you know, handmade by a person. Maybe, you know, there's a little bit of user variation, I guess. Or not user variation, a little bit of like builder variation, I guess, depending on who did it, or maybe what day of the week, whether they had the coffee, you know, who knows. When stuff's handmade, it's not going to be identical. You know, they try his best to make it all uniform, but there might be slight variances here and there. So maybe this just wasn't stitched quite as tight for whatever reason, but it doesn't feel as awkward in the thumb as my 12.1 did. But I do feel a little more tighter than like my Vaughn, for instance. Why that is, I never really understood or found out. But that's there. But yeah, like I said, it's basically the same blocker. Out of all the stuff in this 12.2 line, the blocker is all pretty much unchanged. Just different, you know, some different options that you could order, but you could have ordered that with a 12.1. But it, you know, it's what I do like the blocker. So that's, you know, that's basically the set. You know, can't really get into much more without using it. I'm excited to use it. I'll be starting to use it this upcoming week as I'm currently between seasons in my league. So I basically just have nothing but pickup sessions to go to, which is fine because I, you know, when I'm just experimenting with this stuff, I usually don't want to use it in an actual league game because I, you know, feels uncomfortable maybe, or I don't know how I'm going to play with it. So, but yeah, I'll definitely have a lot of pickup sessions coming up this week. So I'm going to get to try these out. You know, like I said, just looking at it and seeing the visual differences and what I could feel just by putting it on, I do like the improvements. I think it is an improvement over the 12.1. This finally feels like a little bit of innovation, a little bit of something different, as opposed to the 12.1 just feeling like they threw out another E-Flex pad and just rebranded it as Lefevre instead of like CCM. So yeah, so I guess that's going to be the end of this video. So be on the lookout in the future for like an actual review after I've been able to use it on ice. But so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing from this this set. Yeah, so see you next time.